Hello everyone, and welcome back to a new episode. I know many of you use these videos to help you sleep, so before we begin, I thought it would be fun for everyone to say hello and leave a comment letting me know where in the world you're tuning in from. Your engagement really makes this channel special. And hey, if you enjoy getting your nightly dose of thrills and chills with us, why not hit that subscribe button below? It's the best way to never miss out on the latest terrifying tales. So kick back, relax, and let's get started. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly on the cracked asphalt, turning the highway into a shimmering mirage. My beat-up motorcycle sputtered and coughed, its valiant struggle against the heat a losing battle. A flicker of hope on the horizon, a crooked sign barely clinging to a rusted pole, Rusty's relics and repairs, gas too. Relief washed over me, momentarily eclipsing the nagging unease that prickled at the back of my neck. Pulling into the deserted lot, I noticed a single, beat-up car parked askew next to a pump with a faded out-of-order sticker plastered across it. The building itself looked like a forgotten relic from a bygone era, its peeling paint and boarded-up windows giving off a distinct don't-enter vibe. Ignoring the growing disquiet, I dismounted and pushed open the creaking door. A thick silence greeted me, broken only by the rhythmic hum of a dusty ceiling fan. The air hung heavy with the smell of motor oil and something else, a faint metallic tang that made the hairs on my arms stand on end. A single figure, a man shrouded in shadow, emerged from a cluttered back room. He wore a greasy mechanic's jumpsuit, his face obscured by the brim of a well-worn Stetson hat. "Gas," he rasped, his voice gravelly and laced with a strange echo. "Can't hurt to check," I replied, my voice sounding suspiciously loud in the oppressive silence. My gaze darted around the room, taking in the dusty shelves overflowing with rusted tools and tarnished car parts hanging from the grimy ceiling. Before I could take another step, the man chuckled, a low, humorless sound that sent shivers down my spine. "Not for your kind of machine," he rasped, his voice dripping with a malevolent amusement. Fear coiled in my gut. This place wasn't right. "What do you mean?" I managed, taking a cautious step back. He tilted his head, revealing a chilling glint of something metallic beneath the brim of his hat. "This gas," he rasped, gesturing towards a dusty pump in the corner, "is for those who need a little pick-me-up." The pump, unlike the one outside, was adorned with strange symbols I couldn't decipher. A cold dread settled over me. This wasn't gasoline, it was something far more sinister. As if sensing my fear, the man took a menacing step closer. "Your bike looks tired," he croaked, his voice a chilling whisper. "Maybe it just needs a little boost." Adrenaline surged through me. There was no time for questions. I lunged for the door, the man's enraged yell echoing behind me. I scrambled onto my bike, the engine roaring to life with a satisfying growl. Peeling out of the gas station, I glanced back in the rearview mirror. The figure of the mechanic stood in the doorway, his silhouette impossibly tall and thin under the harsh afternoon sun. But what truly sent a fresh wave of terror through me was the faint glow emanating from the pump in the corner, pulsing with an unnatural light. Rusty's Relics and Repairs wasn't a gas station for machines. It was a place that offered a different kind of fuel, a fuel that promised a twisted form of life at a terrible cost. And I knew, with a chilling certainty, that some journeys are better left unfinished, some gas stations better left undisturbed. The neon sign of deserted Dan's Discount Diesel sputtered erratically, casting a sickly green glow over the abandoned highway. My truck coughed and wheezed, its last defiant breaths echoing in the oppressive silence. Stranded. Just me, the endless night, and a gas station that looked like a forgotten movie set. Hesitantly, I approached the building. boards covered most of the windows, leaving only a single grimy pane peeking out like a vacant eye. The door creaked open with a rusty groan, releasing a wave of stale air thick with the smell of oil and something far more unsettling, decay. Behind the counter, a lone figure sat slumped in a chair. An old woman, her face a roadmap of wrinkles, looked up with eyes like faded photographs. "Gas?" I rasped, my voice rough from disuse. A smile, brittle and humorless, stretched across her papery skin. "Not for the living," she croaked, her voice a dry whisper that sent shivers down my spine. Panic clawed at my throat. This wasn't a gas station. This was something else entirely. "What do you mean?" I stammered, taking a cautious step back. A low chuckle escaped her lips, a sound like wind rattling through dry bones. "You seek to fill an empty vessel," she rasped, her gaze dropping to the floor. Following her line of sight, I saw a single dusty can, nestled beside a chipped ceramic cat. A chill washed over me as I recognized the label, "Spectral Fuel, for Restless Souls." Terror clawed at me. This wasn't a gas station for cars. It was a gas station for ghosts. I need gas for my truck," I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. She chuckled again, a hollow, mirthless sound. "The living cannot buy what only the dead can use," she rasped, her eyes glinting with an unnatural light. Suddenly, the air grew thick with a spectral chill. Translucent figures materialized from the shadows, their ghostly forms shimmering in the sickly green light. They reached out to me, their wails a chorus of despair. Panic seized me. I bolted for the door, the spectral figures trailing behind, their mournful cries echoing in my ears. I scrambled into my truck, slamming the door shut and throwing it into gear. The engine roared to life, and I peeled out of the gas station, leaving the chilling scene behind. In the rearview mirror, the gas station faded into the darkness, the spectral figures dissolving into wisps of mist. But the encounter left an indelible mark on my soul. It was a stark reminder that some journeys are best left unfinished, some gas stations best avoided, for they cater not to the needs of the living, but to the restless yearnings of the dead. The blizzard howled like a banshee, each gust a battering ram against my car. Visibility had shrunk to a claustrophobic tunnel illuminated only by my headlights. The heater sputtered its last, leaving only the faint glow of the gas gauge screaming empty at me. Suddenly, a flicker of neon pierced the whiteout, a beacon in the storm. A ramshackle building, barely clinging to the side of the road, bore the faded legend, "Bob's Buckshot, Gas, Grub and Games." Hope, laced with a sliver of unease, flickered in my chest. Pushing open the creaking door, I was met by a wall of warmth and the smell of stale beer and something metallic. A lone figure, a burly man with a shaved head and a handlebar mustache, sat hunched over a steaming mug at the counter. He glanced up, his eyes like chips of ice under a bushy brow. "Gas?" his voice rumbled, a gravelly rasp. "Yeah, please," I croaked, my throat parched. "And anything hot you can offer." He grunted in reply and lumbered towards the single gas pump outside. As I waited, I noticed a mounted deer head on the wall, its lifeless glass eyes staring accusingly. An unsettling quiet hung in the air, broken only by the rhythmic creak of the wind against the building. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream ripped through the air, echoing from somewhere deep within the building. The burly man slammed the gas pump handle down, his face pale. "Just the wind," he muttered unconvincingly, his gaze darting nervously towards the back room. Fear coiled in my gut. It wasn't the wind. I knew that primal scream all too well. The scream of a wounded animal. I think I'll just take the gas," I stammered, pulling out my wallet. He snatched the money with trembling hands, avoiding my gaze. As I turned to leave, a low growl erupted from the back room, sending shivers down my spine. There was something back there. Something monstrous. I fumbled with the gas cap, desperate to escape. Suddenly, the burly man lunged, a glint of metal flashing in his hand. He grabbed a hunting knife from behind the counter, his eyes filled with a feral gleam. "Leaving so soon?" he snarled, his voice laced with a madness that chilled me to the bone. Adrenaline surged through me. I shoved him back, grabbing the gas pump nozzle and aiming it at him like a makeshift weapon. "Get back!" I roared, my voice surprisingly steady. He hesitated, surprised by my resistance. The blizzard howled outside, a fitting soundtrack to the unfolding nightmare. Using the opportunity, I sprinted towards the door, the burly man close behind. I threw myself into the car, slamming the door shut just as he reached me. He pounded on the window, his face contorted in rage. I slammed the car into gear and peeled out, the tires spitting gravel as I tore away from the gas station. In the rearview mirror, I saw the silhouette of the building shrink in the distance, the lone figure a menacing shadow against the swirling snow. I never did make it to my destination. The blizzard forced me off the road, and I spent the night huddled in my car, the memory of Bob's buckshot and the monstrous scream fueling my fear. The next morning, a tow truck rescued me, but the gas station was gone. Vanished without a trace, as if it had never existed. The encounter left me forever scarred. It was a chilling reminder that the most ordinary places can harbor the darkest secrets, and sometimes, the only escape is to leave the gas pump on empty and drive straight into the storm. The highway shimmered under the relentless desert sun, a mirage of asphalt stretching endlessly towards a horizon that seemed to recede with every mile. My car groaned in protest, the temperature gauge nudging precariously close to the red zone. Ahead, a solitary signpost offered a beacon of hope, Dusty's Diner and Gas. The diner itself looked more like a forgotten relic than a welcoming oasis. Weathered wood and peeling paint gave way to a single, boarded-up window. But beside it, a lone gas pump stood defiant, a beacon of salvation in the desolate landscape. Pulling in, I noticed a single car parked haphazardly near the pumps, its dented hood reflecting the harsh sunlight. As I stepped out, the heat slapped me in the face, thick and suffocating. The diner door creaked open with a groan, revealing a dimly lit interior with a counter shrouded in darkness. "Anyone here?" I called out, my voice echoing eerily in the stillness. No reply. Ignoring the prickle of unease at the back of my neck, I walked towards the gas pump. Suddenly, a voice rasped from the darkness of the diner. "You looking for gas, friend?" The voice was gravelly, ancient sounding. A tall figure emerged from the shadows, his features obscured by the brim of a wide-brimmed hat. He wore a long duster coat that seemed to swallow his form in shadow. "Yeah," I replied, my voice strained. "Just need enough to get me to the next town." He shuffled towards the pump, his movements slow and deliberate. As he reached for the nozzle, a glint of silver caught my eye, a long, wicked-looking knife strapped to his hip. Panic clawed at my throat. This wasn't right. "Actually," I stammered, forcing a smile, "I think I might have enough to make it." "Thanks anyway." He turned towards me, the sunlight briefly illuminating his face. Two dark pits gaped where his eyes should have been, and a skeletal grin stretched across his leathery skin. A coldness washed over me, a primal fear that transcended logic. "Leaving so soon?" he rasped, his voice a dry whisper. "Dusty's doesn't take kindly to those who turn down his hospitality." Before I could react, his hand shot out, lightning fast. He grabbed a tire iron from a nearby toolbox and lunged. I dodged instinctively, the metal whooshing past my ear. Adrenaline surged through me. Yelling a primal scream, I grabbed the gas pump nozzle and swung it with all my might, catching him square in the chest. He stumbled back, momentarily stunned. Without wasting a breath, I sprinted towards my car, the figure close behind. I scrambled behind the wheel, slamming the door shut just as he reached me. He pounded on the window, his skeletal face contorted in rage. I fumbled with the keys, the engine turning over with a groan of protest. Throwing the car into gear, I slammed the accelerator, throwing gravel in the figure's face as I peeled out. I didn't look back, the roar of the engine the only sound that dared compete with the pounding of my heart. As I drove into the endless desert, the image of the figure at the gas station, a skeletal nightmare under the harsh sun, burned into my memory. It was a stark reminder that sometimes, even the most desperate situations are better left uninvestigated. From that day on, the name Dusty's Diner and Gas would forever evoke not a comforting oasis, but a chilling encounter with something that lurked just beyond the veil of normalcy.